Yeah, well, it looks like we're right at noon on the dot, so we can go ahead and get started. Good afternoon and happy spring, everybody. My name is Brenda Wolf. I'm the RVCA manager for Resilient Virginia, and we've got a pretty good lineup today. Tara and I'll let Tara and Tracy run most of the meeting, but I'll give you guys a little update on RVCA and what we have been working on lately. So for anybody that's new to the call, RVCA was established in 2023. We are a regional resiliency collaborative made up of various work groups and steering committee members across different sectors. This work has been ongoing for quite some time now. We meet monthly. In addition to the clean transportation work group, we also have a water infrastructure work group and an ag food systems work group. So if you guys know anybody that's interested in those fields, please let us know, and we'd be happy to have them on the call as well. But in addition to the work group endeavors that we have been doing, we have been working on a regional resiliency roadmap for Central and Southwest Virginia, covering 14 different planning district commissions. So it's pretty much all of inland Virginia, which is pretty large area and pretty diverse. And this work basically is serving to help guide the communities and drive resiliency efforts across the Commonwealth. So we are in the finishing stages of this regional roadmap, and it's pretty robust at this point. We are getting ready to launch it live on our website, and we're going to have some info sessions about it. And really try to get this information out there for different folks to use to help compile. It basically compiles information that we've gathered from different priority meetings throughout the year and different folks that we've been meeting with. Tons of data that we've gathered throughout the past couple years to inform this roadmap. So, if you guys are interested in learning more about that, Tara has a slide up here. We have a session coming up on April 2nd. You can register for it online. It's a webinar, and we'll be going into a lot more detail about what that roadmap looks like. So, but yeah, again, it's going to serve as a centralized resource for practitioners, and it's got a lot of really useful strategies and frameworks in it to help inform the resiliency work that's happening. So yeah, you guys, if you know have more, if you want to talk about it more, or you're interested in it, be sure to get on this April 2nd session that we have coming up. And I think that's pretty much all we have in regards to the roadmap. One other thing that I'll add real quick before we have our speakers hop on is eventually we are also going to have the roadmap linked to a dashboard online so that it's interactive and folks can easily find information related to their specific sectors.
Great.
And
Thank you, Brenda.
yeah.
And again, next month we'll be hearing more about the roadmap in this work group too. So save the date and we'll talk more about that at the end. But welcome to our meeting of the Clean Transportation Work Group. We meet monthly, as Brindle said. If you're returning, we're glad you're here today. If you're new, welcome. We focus on new technologies, clean fuels, and other efficiencies in the transportation sector. But today we're going to look at one of the most important transportation sectors, and that's school buses. So if you've ever ridden a school bus or you've put a child on a school bus, this is a really important topic. So we're going to explore some options today that hopefully are much cleaner, healthier, and often cheaper than diesel fuel. This is pretty timely topic. You may have known that the EPA is seeking some information on their clean school bus program, and that helps provide funding to school systems who are looking to transition to a cleaner fuel, a cleaner domestic fuel. Now, the deadline to submit your comments is going to be April 6th. We've put that QR code there. That will lead you to the RFI where you can submit your information. I attended their listening session just about what they were looking for. They did mention that they had a robust amount of information about electric school buses, so they were kind of exploring more of the other fuel options in this RFI. So that's just something to keep in mind. I don't think they're going to stop you from submitting comments about electric school buses, but if you do work in one of the other fuels or have something to say about one of the other cleaner fuels, that might be something you want to consider. So, our first speaker today is going to give us some information on compressed natural gas and renewable natural gas fueled buses. Angela Hankins is a senior account manager with Clean Energy. Angela works with airports and fleets across the United States to support their day-to-day operations. Now, she focuses on developing long-term fuel agreements, maintenance service contracts, and assists fleets with cost-effective and sustainable solutions. She joined Clean Energy back in 2021. Welcome, Angela. We're really glad to have you today.
Thank you, Tara. I appreciate the introduction. So today I just want to walk you guys through a cleaner transportation solution for school fleets. So we'll just kind of go from there. Okay, so over 20 million students ride a school bus every day in the United States, and transportation is one of the largest operational expenses for school districts and one of the largest sources of fleet emissions. Compressed natural gas school buses are just a proven solution for school districts that want to reduce costs and improve air quality and modernize their fleet. And why are school districts moving to CNG? Lower emissions, lower fuel cost, reduced maintenance, energy independence, and federal state funding support. Environmental benefits are another big plus for schools. Compared to diesel buses, CNG buses produce up to 90% less particulate matter, significantly lower NOx emissions, and if RNG is used, it's carbon negative life cycle potential and captures methane. Another cost advantages, the fuel savings, typically more stable than diesel. Domestic supply reduces geopolitical vitality. Maintenance savings, cleaner burning fuel, less soot, reduced oil contamination, and longer engine life. So operational benefits, this is ideal for centralized return to base fleets like school districts. Of course, airport shuttles do this often. It's comparable range to diesel depending on tank configuration. And then there's a quiet operation. And then our challenges have been the higher upfront cost to get a school to switch over. Infrastructure investment is definitely something they have to do. There's also a limited certified amount of CNG technicians to ensure operational reliability. That's been an issue for some areas. And some manufacturers are kind of shifted their focus away from CNG buses and manufacture and production and gone more toward electric, which, because there's a lot of funding incentives, we understand this is going to happen. So. And in closing, CNG buses provide a rare combination of environmental responsibility, operational reliability, and financial predictability. And school districts looking to modernize their fleet while protecting student health, this is a great solution. And I have several schools in Missouri, California, I was trying to look through my list, that use CNG. They love it. It works. And I'd be happy to share some of those upon their approval. So, any questions?
Great. That's Angela's contact information too. And Angela, we're going to save Q&A till the end, if that's all right with
Okay.
you. We can make sure we get through everyone today and all the information. But thank you so much for that great information on CNG.
Thanks, Tara.
Our next speaker is an alternative fuels consultant with Alliance Autogas, which focuses on propane technologies. Happy Fox, you won't forget that name. He serves Southwest Virginia, Northeast Tennessee, and portions of North and South Carolina, helping fleets transition to propane. Now, a lot of the fleets within his network are school systems. He's been with Alliance Autogas since 2016 after leaving a career as a PGA golf professional. That's a whole nother meeting. Happy welcome. Take it away.
Thank you, Tara, for the introduction and everybody for joining us today. Appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit about our company and the segments where we work in. As she mentioned, I'm with Alliance Autogas. We're a division of Blossman Propane Gas Company. We started, if you could, let's go to the next slide, Tara, if you don't mind. So we were started in 2009 as Alliance Autogas to be able to help fleets to move their fleets to an alternative fuel such as propane autogas. So when we started, our third owner, which is the third family generation owner of Blossman Gas, just had this vision, and he started it in 2009. And now we just keep growing to where we're from Alaska to Las Vegas to Miami to Northeast. We're throughout the whole country, fortunately. On our side, before I get into the school bus side that we work with as well, we kind of work in both lanes. One of those lanes is we work with a biofuel system to where it's an EPA certified system. The vehicles start on gas are automatically going to be switched over to being powered by propane. And so when that happens, that's when they're getting their fuel cost savings, reduction in emissions, and a little bit more energy security as 99% of propane is produced here in North America. As these systems get going through, you can see these are different various vehicles here that we have, from sedans to trucks to upfitted trucks. We do a lot of segment in the public and private transportation business as well, like the E450 cutaways and dedicated vans for that as well. So it's kind of a wide range of vehicles that we work with. And let's go to the next slide, please, Tara. And so one of the three key reasons is people move to alternative fuel, whether it be electric, CNG, or us with propane, is going to be the reduction in emissions. So this slide just gives you a pretty good range of the reduction in emissions with propane auto gas versus gasoline versus diesel as well, which is a nice significant reduction. This chart here gives you just another little bit of a step in that same process. It just shows a little bit of a graph about the gray obviously being the bad emissions and the reduction being in the blue dot there. So that is a key component for us. Next slide, please. The other component is the price of fuel. So generally, as a rule, this is an older chart, but it's got a pretty good graph of kind of where prices have been recently under $3 to where we're going to be about 30+% cheaper than gasoline. We're going to probably be about 50% cheaper than diesel. So that just gives you a pretty good range over a period of the last 10 years. We've stayed right in that curve to where we've been 30 to 50% cheaper depending on the fuel that the fleets have used. Another key component for any fleet in their operation. Next slide, please. So one key thing that we're trying to develop, and with any, whether it's electric, CNG, or us, you need to be able to make sure those vehicles get refueled or recharged. We kind of do what's best for the customer. We have many of these customers where we put the infrastructure on site. We have another group of these customers to where we might have a shared site to where there's multiple fleets using those. And then we have another site, many other sites, like this is one of our branches that has a dispenser out front. It's available 24/7. So we kind of work with whatever's best for the customer because we don't take a big footprint and it is movable. It does make it a little bit easier for us to get infrastructure in place. Next slide, please. And then this shows you a good example of infrastructure. Picture on the left shows you the dispenser in a 1,000-gallon tank. The picture in the lower middle shows you the card reader. So if it's your independent site, or maybe it's a shared site or 24/7 site, that card is tagged to that vehicle to where that report and that charge will go back to that company, whoever it's tagged to. And then up above it is a quick connect nozzle. So the two biggest game changers in the last 10 years, one of them has been this quick connect nozzle. No gloves, no PPEs required. It connects on. If it's connected on properly, it refuels. If it's not connected on properly, there's a safety feature in there where it will not disperse propane. So it's just a really neat feature that really has made a huge impact in vehicles converting to be powered by propane. And the next slide, please. And then the main thing we're talking about today is school buses, right, and public transportation. So the other factor for whether it be electric or CNG or us has been the propane school buses. The safety of that factor has made a huge impact. So as you can see, we all talk about we being alternative fuels, whichever category. We all want to help lower emissions. We're all going to be quieter than diesel buses, and we are going to be more efficient to where you don't have to go through the DEF, which the other products here today can testify to that same thing. So it's just really a neat program to where propane school buses are a good fit. CNG may be a good fit, electric may be a good fit. I'm going to be a proponent for propane, but we want to help you choose whatever is the best for your fleet, as well as Tarah and their team does as well. So anything we can do to help you evaluate, analyze your fleet, we're on board. If we get to be your service provider, that's great. If you have another option, we're good with that. We just want to help anybody move the needle towards a cleaner, better burning fuel than diesel. Next slide, please. And then these are a few references that we've got in the area and throughout the company as well. And then I'm only cover part of Virginia. We have 3 other reps that cover the other part. And we would be glad to provide any references or referrals or information you need on a fleet currently operating propane powered school buses or other fleets. And thank you for your time today. And I'll look forward to answering some questions at the end.
Great. And there's Happy's contact information. And again, if you have questions for him, we'll get to those right at the end. Brittany Barrett's our next speaker, and she is the Deputy Director of Implementation and Operations for Electric School Bus Initiative at the World Resources Institute Center for Sustainable Cities. She has a vast career in transportation, including as General Manager for TransDev, hopefully I said that right, Brittany, and as the Assistant Director of Transportation at Emory University. Welcome, Brittany. Really glad to have you today.
Thank you so much. Really happy to be here and join you all. I'm based in Charlottesville, Virginia, so I work remotely. Let's see. So if you want to go ahead and go to the next slide. So I work for WRI, which is a global nonprofit that works to help solve some of the world's greatest climate challenges. And one of those challenges is transportation. And we have helped countries such as Colombia, Brazil, India, and China with data collection and creating plans for public transit electrification. As Tara mentioned, I was a general manager of a public transit system just outside of Atlanta, Georgia, and also worked with Emory University. So I have direct experience with this in addition to this project. If you want to go to the next slide. So specifically at WRI, I work on the electric school bus initiative, which is we work across the ESB ecosystem to partner on real world solutions to the challenge of electrification. We know it's not going to happen overnight and not every use case is covered, but our aim is about building momentum to carry us forward. So why are we so squarely focused on this mission? Next slide. I want to start with taking a look at some important numbers. I think Angela already mentioned this, about 20 million students take the bus every single day. And for over a century, the iconic yellow school bus has played a transformational role in making education accessible for millions of children who have no other way to get to school. There are more rides on school buses than all of public transit combined here in the US, 7 billion trips total. And the vast majority of school buses on the road today burn fossil fuels, primarily diesel. And given the known dangers of diesel exhaust pollution, it's time for an equitable transition to electric school buses nationwide. Next slide. Besides providing a cleaner and quieter ride through electrification, we see additional co-benefits for communities. Electrifying the entire fleet of US school buses would reduce greenhouse gas emissions and could lead to a tipping point for electrification of all medium and heavy duty vehicles. There are health and cognitive outcomes for children, there's increasing evidence that children are more susceptible than adults to the health impacts from harmful diesel. ESBs provide reduced operating expenses and have lower maintenance and fuel costs over time. So that puts money back in the pockets of the school districts to pay teachers and do additional projects. There's also new jobs in green manufacturing. There is a study in 2021 that projected 10.7 million job years created from US investments in electric vehicles, charging, and supply chain. And there's enhanced resilience and renewable integration with V2G or vehicle to grid. Electrifying the school bus fleet can unlock significant storage via vehicle to grid for utilities, which can be used to reduce the variability of clean energy generation and provide extra capacity during emergency responses. I was chatting with Tracy just before we got started talking about a project we're specifically working on with this in Colorado with Excel Energy. Fairfax County right here in Virginia is also doing this with Dominion. So you can see there are many benefits to school buses beyond a cleaner, quieter ride. Next slide. I just want to highlight one more number that I find staggering. It's 9 million, and that's how many metric tons of GHG can be removed if we fully electrified the US school bus fleet. Electric school buses produce the lowest levels of GHG of any school bus type, and that also accounts for the emissions generated by the production of electricity, and that's across the US. Next slide. So in addition to the GHG impacts that improves climate, diesel exhaust is a known carcinogen and can lead to asthma, cancer, and other respiratory illnesses. What's increasingly concerning for me and for WRI is the fact that children of color are more likely to ride the bus than their white peers and ride it for longer periods of time. That's also true for students with disabilities. So that's why it makes it increasingly important that we focus on an equitable transition. Next slide. In addition to the children that ride the bus, of course, drivers are also impacted by this. On the slide, we have some quotes from drivers about their experiences with electric school buses. I don't know about where you are, but here in Charlottesville, we definitely have a school bus driver shortage. My kids' particular route has been driven by a substitute, so they're 25 minutes late getting home every day, and they tell me all about it. And so we have seen ESBs be an effective recruiting tool used to attract new drivers to the districts. Speaking of jobs, next slide. ESBs are creating them across the supply chain. There's over 30 manufacturers in 17 states producing ESB parts. There's a ripple effect of this to local economies. There's jobs created in related industries such as fabricators, seed producers, wire assemblers, and all of this takes place right here in the US. So with all of these benefits, it seems like an easy way to go around. I want to go a little bit into what is the current status of ESB electrification adoption in the US. Slide. Oh, we're there. There are 490,000 school buses on the road. Only about 1% are currently electric, about 5,000 actually operating, but there's strong momentum across the board. They have been deployed in 49 states, still working on one in Wyoming. It's the only state that doesn't have one yet. They're in DC, 4 territories, and several tribal nations. Next slide. Here is a map just showing where electrification is happening. It's in every community. Districts from California to New York and Illinois are leading the way with hundreds of electric school buses. Next slide. And a few more additional numbers here for us. And now I mentioned there's about 5,000 buses on the road. About 14,000 have been committed, procured, or delivered, or they are in operation. So this is a pipeline we know coming through different funding programs at the state and the federal level. 36% of where these buses are in school districts with the highest shares of low-income households. Next slide. So we have momentum, we're moving forward with electrification, but there's still challenges to that. They are more expensive than any other type of school bus out there, about 3 times as expensive. The infrastructure piece of electrification is definitely a challenge for school districts, coordinating with utilities and getting the upgrades can be significantly time consuming and often more challenging than running the buses themselves. It's a new technology that has to be learned. There's myth busting around, cold weather operations and other features, and there's a need to scale quickly to reach impact. So I want to go through a little bit of detail on each of these challenges and just some information that we have about that. So next slide. Focusing on the cost, the total cost of ownership. For an electric bus is very different than other fuel types because the out-year operating costs and maintenance costs are significantly less expensive, but the upfront capital costs are more expensive. So we have a couple different funding scenarios here. This is our own total cost of ownership calculator that we've created. and his our tech note to explain all the numbers that go into this are available on our website. But you can see there are quite a few ways in which you can achieve or even exceed TCO parity with school buses. But most of that relies on incentive funding programs from either state or federal governments, also utilities. The next slide. Speaking of which, there is the Clean School Bus Program. I think Tara mentioned at the beginning, there's an RFI out right now to collect feedback on the program, but we are still hearing that a new round will come out. The law definitely says that 50% of each fiscal year funds have to go to electric buses. So we're very hopeful that there will still be a demand for electric moving forward, and that this program will continue to help buses roll out. Next slide. On a state level, there's a lot happening here in Virginia. I think grabbed some headlines from the news of different ribbon cuttings and ESBs rolling out across the state. Next slide. I stole this map from Gen 180 that they used our data to create, just showing where the buses are being deployed and how many are happening. So we've been very involved with many of these school districts in their electrification efforts. Next slide. This is just a teeny tiny sampling of some of the resources, the tools that we have that are available to you or school districts you work with in how to electrify. So we have case studies, we have data sets, we have a dashboard that we update on a weekly basis about where school buses are. We have an actual step-by-step guide that has a Gantt chart you can print out and make a project plan with your team to figure out how to electrify. So our website, electricschoolbusinitiative.org, has tons and tons of tools and resources that are available to help address any of the challenges the schools are facing. Next slide. One of those specifically is the buyer's guide and market and landscape trends. So I know that is a little difficult to see there, but that's a spreadsheet that you can download from our website that has every single make and model of electric school bus that's available. So all of the major OEMs, Thomas, IC, Bluebird, are also making electric buses. And then there's electric only, which is Ride and Green Power, that are available. So you can see what your options are. We also include the infrastructure that we know works with each of those makes and models as well. Next slide. This is a sampling of some of our articles that we have. We call it All About, and it's whatever the next thing, all about infrastructure, all about working with your utility, all about whatever it is that you need, and showing real school districts and how they're moving forward with implementation. Next slide. Another resource we have is a roadmap that we wrote. It's more a policy piece and addresses each member of the ESB ecosystem, all the stakeholders and what they can do. So you can visit that website or scan the QR code to get information there. Next slide. Another tool that we have is the data set of US school bus depots. This was a really cool project we worked on using machine learning and aerial imaging that looked across the US, analyzed images of the earth, and found where most of the school bus depots are. And we have provided this information to utilities and other planning organizations. You are also welcome to get a copy of that. It's all of our resources are completely free. Next slide. And then this is just a fun image that we have that gives information about some of the challenges from the roadmap that came up, and that was developed by stakeholder interviews and meetings to get information. And that is kind of a big summary of all of the plans that are in that policy document that I mentioned. And I think that's my last slide. There's my contact information, and happy to speak with anyone. to get more details. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Brittany. We appreciate you being here and sharing this information with us today. And piggybacking kind of on the electric school bus initiative, we have Jason Smith. He's the Energy Services Program Manager and is celebrating 20 years with Appalachian Power. Based in Glade Springs Service Center, Jason manages the associated business development and supports the company's electric vehicle tariffs and electric transportation initiatives. I also have to say Jason's a member of the Virginia Clean Cities Southwest Virginia Advisory Board, and we are grateful for your service and that you're here today. Welcome, Jason.
Thank you, Tara. I'll let you go ahead and move on to the next slide. About 5 years ago, we provided some grants to help these schools purchase some of these electric school buses. As Brittany mentioned a minute ago, the electric school buses, they are quite a bit more expensive than a diesel school bus. So what we did, we had funding available that would help offset that additional cost. Between 2021 and 2022, we provided grants that helped support the schools you see there on the lower right. They purchased a total of 14 buses, and part of the requirements is they had to be replace a 2009 older diesel school bus. And that totaled, as you can see, a little over $3 million that we provided in grants to those, help support those electric school buses. If you want to go to the next slide. Around that same time, we also started 2 new tariffs that were available to the public authority customers, those like schools or other government agencies. Both of those, they provide a credit for off-peak charging, which is a discounted rate on their kilowatt hour cost. And the on-peak charging, that would get hit with a surcharge, and it's primarily set up like all of our time of day tariffs. It's meant to kind of encourage that off-peak charging. The on-peak time was 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Friday, and then the off-peak time, as you can see, was 8 p.m. to 7 a.m. Monday through Friday, and then all day on Saturday or Sunday. So this works out really well for anybody with an electric school bus, just because of the time. That's about the time that those school buses, they're going to be idle anyway. So if they can set the chargers up to start charging during those times, it's going to provide them a better rate than what they would normally get. You can go to the next slide. The option number 1, it's a standalone PEV service. This one is more for larger fleets. This particular picture you see is up city of Lynchburg. They received 25 electric school buses through the EPA's Clean School Bus Program. And this is an installation like this is perfect for that standalone PEV service, Schedule 068. What it does is it provides that discounted rate for off-peak charging for everything that's been served by that particular service. And again, this one is set up more for an electric service that's dedicated just for the EV charging. If you want to go to the next slide. The standalone PV service, it kind of mirrors our general service TOD rate. So I ran some calculations just to give you a better idea what the savings can be. If they had that service on our general service, the standard rate, you can see the monthly bill would be a little over $13,000 a month, or about 13.2 cents per kilowatt hour. And these were based on a customer using 100,000 kilowatt hours a month, which is probably a little on the high side, and a demand of 300 kW. That 300 kW demand is very reasonable. Matter of fact, I think those school buses at Lynchburg use more than that. But if we put them on the Schedule 068 tariff and they charge 60% off peak, 40% on peak, you can see that drops it down to about a little under 12,000. Decent savings, about 11.95 cents kilowatt hour. But if they're able to move 100% of that charging to off peak, it's just a substantial discount, almost cuts their monthly bill in half. If you want to go to the next slide. The next option is a sub-metered PEV tariff. This one is more like a residential PEV tariff we have available. This one's good to use in areas where you're going to have, say, they already have a garage set up, or they have another building at a school. They may have one or two school buses there that charge occasionally. That's a good location to use the sub-metered PV tariff. It's used in combination with our small general service or our general service tariffs. And what it does, it's going to look at just the charging by the electric school bus. So it's not going to provide a discounted rate for everything that's on that particular tariff. Like if that building's on the GS tariff, it's just going to look at the charging by the charger, the electric school bus. It does require a second AMI meter that has to be installed in the electrical circuit between the breaker panel and the charger itself. I think the next slide might show a little better picture of that. But again, this one's good for locations that just have, say, one or two chargers, one or two school buses, and just another option that customers have available to help if they're going to be storing or parking an electric school bus there overnight or on the weekend. It just helps them get that discounted rate for that particular school bus. You can go to the next slide.
That was the last slide you sent me.
Okay. I think I covered all of it.
Thank you so much, Jason. We appreciate you giving us that information. And then here to talk about another funding opportunity with the Virginia Clean Energy Innovation Bank, which is housed at the Virginia Department of Energy. We're happy to welcome Sean Matthew, the investments lead for the bank. He evaluates projects to determine their potential for bank funding. Welcome, Sean.
Thank you, Tara. If you could go ahead to the next slide, please. Thank you. Awesome. Well, unlike the other four presenters, I won't directly speak to school buses and alternative fuels, but like Tara mentioned, I work for the Virginia Clean Energy Innovation Bank, which is housed as a program within the Virginia Department of Energy. We're technically a SEFI, so a state energy financing institution, which means that we can access a larger pool of capital from the Federal Office of Energy Dominance Financing, which you might know as the Loan Programs Office they recently renamed. But essentially what we do is we finance clean energy projects essentially as Virginia's Green Bank or Virginia's Innovation Bank to fund projects in line with Virginia's all of the above All-American Energy Plan. If you're in tune with Virginia politics, we are supposed to release a new plan later this year. And so obviously the bank's priorities will be nimble to whatever changes that might be. Next slide, please. So we were founded in September 2024 under the Youngkin administration. We officially started operations in January of 2025, so just a little over a year old in terms of actually dispersing funding. And in 2025, we had a very active year. We looked at over 100 projects, 100 different companies, and ultimately dispersed $9.2 million in project funding. Most of that was in the form of grants. However, what our model is actually supposed to be is loans. And so out of that 9.2 million, 8 million was grants and 1.2 million was loans. That's really, we're shifting away from that model into primarily funding, low interest government subsidized loans around 5 to 6% interest rate. For commercially viable projects. So just, I think people get very excited at the idea of grants. Super happy with that, but that's kind of not our role in the constellation of energy financing programs in Virginia. We were involved in providing some funding to the Commonwealth Fusion Systems, first commercially viable fusion plant coming to Chesterfield County, as well as a variety of battery storage and solar projects as well. Next slide, please. And so this slide kind of just gives you an idea of what we were looking at last year. And so we looked at a fairly broad mix in terms of technologies that we look at. Obviously, you'll see on this pie and bar chart that we had not funded anything in clean transit last year. We did look at a handful of projects on that topic, but none of them eventually panned out. We would ultimately look for not providing a loan to a school district because that's kind of a robbing Peter to pay Paul situation. But we would look to provide loans with, some of the developers, like the folks who are on this call, who would be providing some of that infrastructure, that equipment, whether that be buses or charging equipment to the school district, right? So that's something that we can look at. We would just look to see if the project overall is commercially viable, if this is something that has strong local support, of course. But overall, very pleased to hear of the initiatives going on throughout Virginia. One thing I will note is that the map kind of shows where we've deployed capital over the last year, and definitely kind of cross-referencing this to some of the other maps that we've seen. I think would be very interested to look at school districts maybe that are underrepresented or that are newly getting this kind of infrastructure. Next slide, please. And so the bank really has three main roles. I already touched on funding, but we also do a lot of facilitation, a lot of ecosystem building. So we're very grateful for all of our partners, and I believe the next slide will touch on that a little bit more. But we really serve as kind of this nexus point, being able to connect public and private stakeholders at all levels of government, and making sure that we provide public and private capital to some of these projects. We also, sorry. Just finishing up on this slide, we also leverage private and federal dollars, like I mentioned. So that's kind of our other big like service area, and kind of like I mentioned before, we do have a fairly broad mix of technologies. Most of that should remain consistent, into this new administration, but our relative preference might change slightly. Next slide, please. And yeah, like I mentioned, we do a lot of ecosystem building. So we, again, very much value our partnership with Virginia Clean Cities. I think a lot of y'all might recognize some of my colleagues in the department, Vince Maiden, Ed Cronin. They do a lot of work on the transportation side of things. And so we really rely on them to help us evaluate kind of the technology and the merits of these projects if it's kind of outside of our scope of expertise. But beyond that, like I mentioned, we do connect with the private sector quite a bit, as well as the other, like our sister agencies like VEDP, Tobacco, VIPC. And so definitely depending on the nature of the project and what's appropriate, we can help leverage other federal and state and local like pools of capital as well. And yeah, that's all I had. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Sean. That's another great bunch of information, especially for those of you looking for some funding opportunities. Of course, if you have any questions for any of our speakers, feel free just to unmute or place those in the chat. So we'll give everybody a minute to get their brains working here. Well, you guys must have covered all your topics very well today. Do we have anyone with a question?
I have one. This is Andy Alden talking. This may be best for Brittany, but one of the other people may want to speak up about it also. I know from working with commercial truck drivers who are driving large Class 8 trucks that the drivers practically fight over who gets to drive the electric ones now. And I was curious if you're seeing that kind of reaction with school bus drivers. I'm sure there's good and bad about driving an electric bus for a driver, but do you have any feedback from the drivers, how they feel about it?
Yeah, I know I had a quick slide on some of that information, but in general, yes, the bus drivers, many of them skeptical in the beginning, and then exactly like you said, they will fight over who gets to drive it. Like they have challenges about who can come back with the highest battery range or get the most range out of their buses. Fairfax County Public Schools made this really cool video with their bus drivers about the difference between the diesel and electric. So yeah, they very much like it. It's a great recruiting tool.
Great. Thanks for that.
Angela or Happy, would you guys like to weigh in on that as well?
Angela, you want to go?
I'll let you go.
We have the very similar experience with propane buses to where they would say, I don't want to drive that. And then after they get on it and they see the power operation, it works more like a gas powered vehicle than a diesel where you just stomp it down. Much more responsive in that respect. And then from the quietness of it, they also like that. And then the other component is when it's cold in the wintertime, that propane bus can heat up faster than any of the other models that are out there. So they really like that. So thanks for your question.
Thanks, Happy.
I would have to agree with Happy pretty much, except we do have a few issues every once in a while with it, with the cold weather, just occasionally. So.
Great. Thank you guys. Any other questions out there today?
I have another one if nobody's going to speak up.
Please.
Sorry. I think this is for Happy. One of your graphs showed the cost per gallon of propane versus diesel, but the energy content of propane is significantly lower per gallon than diesel. How do the things compare on how many miles you get per gallon basis? And
Yeah,
how does
so
that translate over to the cost per mile driven?
good question. Our octane is 110, so a general on propane, so it does take more propane to get the same efficiency that you would get out of a gallon of diesel. So if a school bus fleet is getting 6 miles per gallon on diesel, we usually correlate it back to about 5 miles per gallon on propane. So they're going to lose that probably one MPG, depending on the terrain, may make a little bit more of a difference as well, or depending on the driver habit as well. But the cost, if diesel's, let's just use a generic number, let's say diesel's 350 right now. For propane, we're under $2. So we've still got that, maybe not 50, but we've got at least a 35 to 40% savings. And we will help do an ROI to show that, what with that cost differential. So if you needed 1,000 gallons of diesel, maybe you need 1,100 gallons of propane. We can help factor that in to make sure that it's showing a true savings on your fuel cost. Does that answer it?
Yeah, so the net result is that it's still less expensive per mile to drive a propane powered bus,
Yes, sir.
at least as far as fuel goes.
Yeah, on fuel and then on maintenance I don't mean this in a bad way. I'm just not familiar with the service and maintenance on electric bus. CNG is probably pretty similar to us to where they do need maintenance, or maybe there's a filter check that needs to be done along with the oil change on it. Even when you factor that in compared to a diesel bus, that maintenance cost is significantly lower. The time significantly less. The materials are significant less. So it's not a win perfect fuel. None of us are, but we all work to be in a better, more efficient fuel than a diesel bus, if I may put it that way.
And Angela, is the same thing true for compressed natural gas?
Well, okay, on the mileage, so a CNG school bus is going to get 6 to 7 miles per diesel gallon equivalent, whereas a diesel is about 7 to 8. So you do see a slight reduction in that. And as far as cost, diesel is usually typically more, but we're seeing it CNG's kind of creeped up there because of the commodity and transportation cost and all of that. So, but typically CNG is cheaper than the diesel for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Really great information. Anyone else have a question? And thanks, AD, for those questions. They were really good ones.
I actually have a question for Angela. I'm just curious, which OEMs are making CNG buses? I know Bluebird is the only one making the propane.
That is something I need to get updated because we have seen them kind of steer away and move more toward electric. So I think there is maybe one And I got to verify that because that has been the biggest challenge, being really honest, is we're seeing a lot of schools will do conversions and things like that. We have a person that we work with that we can send out there. And so that kind of helps get them somewhat into CNG, if that makes sense. But yeah, we've seen, them go away quite a bit or halt for now. So I think they're wanting to see what the market's going to do.
Okay, gotcha. That's it. We track all of the makes and models, and I didn't have a CNG for school buses on my list. So I was just wanting to make sure we had accurate information.
You do.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Just want to mention that, we want to hear from you about topics you want to cover for our next meeting. So if you have an idea on something new, maybe we haven't ventured into, or if we've covered something you thought was really interesting and you want us to expand on that, feel free to drop any ideas for a future clean transportation working group there in the chat, or you can also email me. My email's up there. I'd love to hear from you guys. We're planning these throughout the year. So if there's something you'd like to focus on, we want to make sure that we cover it. All right, and please save the date for our next clean transportation work group. That's going to be April 15th. So that's Drive Electric Month. So we're going to focus on some EVs for that work group session. And then we're also have our friends from Resilient Virginia come by and talk about the regional roadmap. So if that's something that interests you and maybe you can't make the April meeting and you want to come to that work group meeting, they're going to dive a little deeper into the roadmap there, and hopefully we'll have a good working session with that. Just a couple announcements since we have a few minutes left. If you haven't heard yet, we are hosting the Mid-Atlantic Advanced Transportation Summit and Expo. We as in Virginia Energy. That's going to be happening in Harrisonburg this summer. And we are working with coalitions across the Mid-Atlantic states. This is a first of its kind event for our region, and we want to see all of you there. If you want to sponsor, if you just want to attend, if you have a great idea for a presentation, we're also accepting a call for speakers through March 31st. So if any of those exciting opportunities perk you up, then feel free to check out that QR code and go ahead and register. Of course, you can follow up with us for more information. This is going to be a really exciting event. Of course, it's the first of its kind. So you can say you were the first there if you're able to attend and join us for that. Also, we're going to be gathering in Richmond for the Rally in Richmond. So this is Virginia Clean City's annual event, and we'd love to have you join us there too. We'll have some great vehicles on display. We celebrate clean transportation, which is our favorite thing. We celebrate fleets and ambassadors that work on that side of the industry. And we just really have a great evening of networking and fellowship. Again, that QR code there is what you need to secure your spot. Fleets are free for this event, so if you are a fleet manager or with a fleet, we'd love to welcome you to come hang out with us. This is an exciting event happening specifically in Southwest Virginia in person. We're going to be presenting the electric vehicle charging station technician curriculum. That's happening at Southwest Virginia Higher Education Center in Abingdon on March 25th. This is going to be a lunch meeting from 11:30 to 12:30. So we do ask that you please pre-register so we can make sure you're fed. Now, this curriculum is an easy add-on to existing electrical courses. They go ahead and certify students to troubleshoot EV charging stations. So if you're a professor or know one, or a career and technical school teacher that might be interested in this, or if you are an electrician that works in this industry, we'd love to have you there to provide feedback and also to offer you this curriculum. So that ends it for us, and I just want to say thank you to all of our speakers. This was some really a lot of great information today, and hopefully you guys are walking away with some new knowledge from our Clean Transportation Work Group. Just want to make sure there were no questions. We've got about 5 minutes left if anything popped up for anyone before we head out. Okay, if not, we hope to see you in April and have a great day, everyone.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
Tara.
Tara.
Thanks, everybody.